So guys, we are right in the middle of OTAs, and look, I've been locked in on every single update coming out of Cowboys camp, and two things hit me today that I just had to talk about. Quinnen Williams sat down for an interview and dropped Bombshell on Christian Parker, and honestly, this is really big. And on top of that, Schottenheimer stepped to the mic and basically put Tyler Guyton on blast, a first-round pick who now has to earn his starting left tackle spot all over again. What's up, Cowboys? Welcome to the NFL Playbook Cowboys. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So, before moving to Quinnen Williams, let me start with Tyler Guyton. Schottenheimer held his first pre-practice OTAs press conference, and right out of the gate, he made it crystal clear. Tyler Guyton is not just handed that left tackle spot anymore. He said, and I'm paraphrasing here, that Tyler understands the importance of this year and that they are going to make him earn it. And right now, Tyler Guyton and Nathan Thomas are going head-to-head competing to start at left tackle. Now, when a head coach comes out and says that publicly, that's not small talk, that's a message. And I want to give you the full picture on why this is such a big deal. Because when you really dig into Tyler Guyton's background, some things start to make a lot of sense. In college, Guyton played 1,001 snaps total, and out of all those snaps, only 70 of them came at left tackle. 70. The rest of his college career was at the right tackle. And anyone who really understands offensive line play knows left tackle and right tackle are not the same position. The left tackle is protecting the quarterback's blind side. That's why those guys get paid more. That's why the position demands a completely different skill set. So right from the jump, the Cowboys were asking Guyton to convert from a position he barely played in college to one of the most demanding spots on the offense. And look, I get it. The guy is an incredible athlete. Schottenheimer himself said Guyton might be one of the most athletic big men he's ever been around. The tools are undeniably there, but tools without consistency don't win you a starting job in this league. And that word, consistency, that's really the heart of this whole Guyton conversation. Because here's what the tape and the injury report tell us. In his rookie season, he missed 2 games. Then last year, he missed 7. That's 9 games total across 2 seasons. He dealt with a knee bone fracture in late July 2025 that kept him out of the rest of camp. Then a concussion in week 5 of the 2025 season. Then a high ankle sprain in November 2025 that actually cost him his starting job down the stretch and eventually landed him on injured reserve. I mean, when you add all that up, you start to realize the biggest thing holding Tyler Guyton back isn't even technique, it's availability. Your best ability is your availability, right? And if you can't stay on the field, none of the other stuff matters, none of it. Now, Guyton himself responded to all of this when he was asked about the competition with Nathan Thomas, and I'll give him credit. He kept it calm and focused. He talked about how consistency isn't just one thing, it's a lifestyle. Going to sleep on time, eating right, training right, everything has to be consistent across the board. He also mentioned working after practice with guys like Terrence Steele, getting extra reps in, and focusing on his strength this offseason. Look, I appreciate the mindset, but at some point, the mindset has to show up on the field every single week. That's what this competition is really about. Schottenheimer basically telling Guyton, show me, don't just tell me. And honestly, I think this competition is actually good for both guys, because what it does is it removes the comfort zone. Guyton was kind of just handed that spot early in his career with no real pressure. Now there's pressure, real pressure, and sometimes that's exactly what a young player needs to flip the switch and take that next step. So we'll see. I'm not writing Tyler Guyton off. I think talent is real. But this year, he has got to stay healthy. He has got to be more consistent with his footwork, and he has got to prove to this coaching staff that he is their guy. Because if Nathan Thomas outplays him, this whole conversation gets a lot more complicated real fast. And even if he feels shaky in this battle, I'll still give him a margin of error, because remember, he actually is the right tackle, and the Cowboys might ask him to go back to his original position. So, keep an eye on training camp. We are going to see a major decision before this regular season. Okay, now let's shift over to some of the other OTA observations because there's good stuff to cover here. Starting with the injury side, Jalen Thompson was spotted on the resistance cords, which caught people off guard since that wasn't announced beforehand. So, with Thompson limited, PJ Locke and Malik Hooker were getting reps with the ones. On the receiver side, no George Pickens as expected. The belief is he'll be there for mandatory minicamp in a couple of weeks. In his place, Marquez Valdes-Scantling got some work with the ones, which I thought was worth noting. Donovan Wilson and Deron Bland were also on the cords, but both are considered precautionary and expected to be full goes when training camp opens. Siobhan Revel was on the field with no knee brace and no cords, which is a solid sign. And DeMarvion Overshone wasn't out there, but that was because of a wedding this weekend, nothing injury related. Now at linebacker, with Overshone out, the ones ran with D. Winters and Shamar James, and it looked like Shamar James was wearing the green dot, which tells you they're getting him comfortable in that communication role. Caleb Downs was all over the slot spot throughout the session. Now, moving to the biggest OTAs takes away in my opinion, and that is Quinnen Williams. Man, look, I think sometimes we forget what we actually have in this guy. Like, we talk about Dak, we talk about George Pickens, we talk about Caleb Downs, and rightfully so. But Quinnen Williams is one of the best defensive tackles in football right now. Top 5, easy. And he just sat down during OTAs and gave an interview that had me locked in from start to finish, and I want to break down why. The first thing that jumped out to me was just how he carries himself. Quinnen was talking about how this offseason he's been purely focused on learning his craft, working with the new defensive staff, and specifically working alongside the new defensive line coach Marcus Dixon and pass rush specialist BT Jordan. And the way he talked about it, you could hear the genuine hunger in his voice. He kept saying he wants to be better than the years before, keep growing, keep improving. And when a guy who already plays at an all-pro level talks like that, you listen. He also talked about the scheme change and what it means for him personally. And this part is important. Quinnen played in a 3-4 scheme at Alabama under Coach Saban, and that's actually what made him the force he was coming out of college. So, getting back to a 3-4 under Christian Parker isn't just a scheme change for him, it's kind of like coming home. He talked about how in a 3-4, there are more defensive linemen on the field, which means more responsibility in that room, and how he genuinely loves that. More responsibility, more opportunity to dominate. And he gave Marcus Dixon a lot of credit too, which I appreciated, because we talk about BT Jordan as the pass rush specialist a lot, but Marcus Dixon as the defensive line coach is someone we keep sleeping on. Quinnen said that in just the 2 weeks working with Dixon, he had already learned so much. That speaks volumes. And then having Kenneth Clark in that same room, a guy who has thrived in the 3-4, Quinnen talked about how that experience and knowledge right next to him every day is invaluable. But then he got to talking about Caleb Downs, and this is where it really got good. Someone asked Quinnen what he could share with a rookie like Caleb coming in as a high draft pick with all that pressure, and Quinnen didn't hesitate. He talked about how Caleb has all the tools, the humility, the readiness to learn, the intensity, the urgency. He said having a guy like Caleb Downs in the locker room is something he personally benefits from. Think about that. One of the best defensive tackles in football saying he benefits from a rookie being in the room. That's not just talking for the cameras. That's genuine leadership. Quinnen also talked about where this defense was last year. He flat out said they were at the bottom. No sugarcoating, no excuses, just acknowledgement. And he talked about how having a dominant offense on the other side of the ball every day in practice is actually a blessing for the defense because you're going up against that level of competition every single rep. Iron sharpens iron. And he talked about how all the top defenses in the league, he mentioned the Rams, Denver, the Eagles, the Seahawks, the Patriots, they all run a similar scheme to what Christian Parker is installing. So it's not like they're reinventing the wheel. They're adapting a proven system and making it their own. So look, we only got Quinnen Williams for a handful of games last year. He came over right around Thanksgiving, so we barely got a real sample of what he can do in this system. Honestly, he almost feels like a brand new addition. And hearing him talk with this level of detail, this level of excitement about the scheme, the staff, his teammates, I cannot wait to see what this defense looks like when it's fully healthy and clicking. The pieces are there, the coaching is there, and the mentality, based on everything Quinnen just laid out, is absolutely there. This Cowboys defense is going to be better. I genuinely believe that.